All right. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. As Jason mentioned, we are recording these things. They will be on our website. And I just wanted to put up a list of some of those that we had from the past year. We actually recorded several things from our event last year that we had here at the Trust. And so those are on our website as well. If you go into utahtrust.gov/webinars, go to the Public Works Management section, you'll find an example of those of what we talked about for sewer management and things there. So again, thanks for being here. We're going to talk about several things that apply to sewer management, and hopefully this is going to take back and help you to have a better management of your system and reducing the losses and claims that we see come in from these types of things. So we'll go through that. I want to look just briefly at some performance across the state that we've had in the past year. Some information that we gather, we're able to learn from and share with you. So here at the Trust, throughout the state, we have 118 members who either own or operate a sewer system, and obviously that's a good amount. That's a big amount of people around the state. 48 of those members within the last 3 years have had sewer claims. So there's kind of an indication for you there. Those are having at least one sewer claim. 8 of those members, though, of the 118 have had 3 or more claims in the past 3 years. And so we find that a lot of the claims that we see are often repeated by the same entity going on there. So again, our hope from this training, this webinar today, is to raise awareness about that and identify some things that can help all of the membership of the Trust to improve those practices. So looking at performance in 2017, this past year, we saw 35 claims come in regarding sewer, whether it's a backup or damage or things like that. Anything pertaining to sewer, we had 35 of those. And looking back over the past 5 years, a total of 165. If you average that out, there's about 33 per year. So last year we were kind of in that average range for the average amount of claims. However, this year we're a little ahead of schedule. We have about 25 claims actually that have already come in through this part of the year. Now, granted, we're into August, and we still have some more months left in the year, so there will likely be some more that come in. But hopefully we can lessen that and not have as many as we've had in past years. Having 25 to this point by mid to late summer is a little bit ahead. We're having a little higher count of sewer claims so far this year. So just an update for you on that. Looking back over the years since we've been tracking this, looking at claims and the cost of claims and things that go on, we've seen kind of an uptick. You can see back in 2010 we had a lot higher total cost of claims at that time. This is for all claims in each of those given years, and it went down. We started doing some more training on this. We've done our sewer summits. We started our Trust Accountability program in about 2013, and started to talk more about manhole inspections, where we put that guidebook out there, and we really feel that the manhole inspections and raising awareness about these types of things have helped to lower that. So you can see 2013 we did a great job of lowering the cost of our overall claims. However, you can also see in the past 3 years, from 2016 to now, it's starting to jump up. 2018, as I mentioned, we are already ahead of schedule on claims, having more than expected to this point, and the cost of those has actually been a real increase. We've had several here this year that have been some really costly claims. One, for example, we had a lift station failure that caused 2 houses to back up, had their system back up, and caused approximately $70,000 damage in one home and $40,000 in another. And then we had another claim where there wasn't a homeowner at home at the time. The main line got backed up, started to back up into a home, and nobody was home at the time, and had about $40,000 of damage there. So there's some really costly claims this year. We've also had a kind of a faster start to the claims, and we want to raise awareness to that so we can help to prevent those things. So just an update for you so you can see kind of how we're doing with the Trust as a whole there with the membership. Looking back at the past 5 years, you can see we've been about the 33 would be the average 33 claims per year. As we talked about, we're already at 25 this year. And we also break these out into sewer claim costs per claim. So it's a good key indicator that we can look at to see how much on average, each claim is really costing us that are pertaining to the sewer. This year being very high so far, most likely due to those 3 that were really costly earlier in the year this year. So some good information, something that we can look at and learn from. And we look at these things trying to find ways that we can help help you, the membership of the trust, to find ways to reduce losses, to manage your system better and do those types of things. And that's really the purpose of this and why we do this webinar and summits and trainings and things that we do.
Hey Brent, before you jump onto the next
yeah.
item, Dan had a good question. He says, are these paid claims or all claims regardless if they were paid? And the answer to that is it's all claims. And so as we look at that average, you know there are going to be some claims in there that we didn't own any liability on, and so they would be a $0 claim there, and so that definitely figures into that average. Good question, and also no fault claims and all of those fit into those as well.
Yep, great point. Thanks for answering that, Jason. Great job. So yeah, all the information's there, and it's also from each year as well, not just this year, but every year that claim count is the same there. As far as no claims, no fault, things like that. 2017, looking back, we've been sending out these surveys each year, and a lot of you have gotten these and returned them back. We had 108 surveys that we received back this year. And we like to look at this. We send these things out to our membership just to kind of get an idea of, what's the size of their system, looking at, how many miles of pipe do they have, how many manholes are there, how often do they do inspections and cleanings, some of those specifics that we can look at to see the trends and see kind of the things that go on that we can learn from. And so I'd like to share those results with you and kind of show you what's happened throughout the last year, and we can also use this for comparisons to help you see kind of how you stand as far as, with the average of the trust, to see where your system is, how it's being managed, as far as the frequency of the things that you're doing and what's going on there. So I'm going to show you those real quick. This is one of the surveys we sent out in previous years. We'll be sending this out again later this year toward the end of the year. And we'd like to get all those surveys back, by the end of December. The end of the year would be best. And then we can use that information to gather this data, do some comparisons with claims, and we can share that information with you again each year. And we find this to be very valuable to give a good overview of what's going on in the state with the membership that we have here at the Trust. So be watching for that sewer survey. I'll send that out to you later on this year. But looking back over 2017, of all the surveys we received, the 108 of those, you can see our amount of miles of pipe that we have, 6,473 miles of pipe in the state from these members that were surveyed here at the Trust. And over 388,000 connections, over 16,000 industrial or commercial connections, 313 lift stations, and over 141,000 manholes. Obviously, that's a lot of exposure there, things that can go wrong and cause claims and damage and things like that. So we want to look at that and look at each one and see what we found going on there. From those surveys that came in, we had about 70% of the manholes had been inspected. So about over 99,000 manholes were inspected last year, according to that survey sent in. Of the 108 members that turned in that survey, 50 of those had done 100% manhole inspection on their system, meaning that they had gone through every manhole. At least they had at least popped a lid and taken a look in there to see the condition and make sure that things are flowing okay. So that's a really good thing. That's a really good best practice. It's probably the #1 key thing that we focus on with our Trust Accountability Program, is doing those manhole inspections, at least getting in there and seeing, with your own eyes what's going on in each one of those manholes. Really makes a difference to prevent backups and problems in your systems there. So some really good numbers there. We also look at the average sewer cleaning frequency. We like to know how often is your entire system getting cleaned, the type of rotation that you have on it. And on average, the Trust as a whole, with the survey, came in at 3.31 years is the average time to do the entire system. We had 14 members that actually do 100% of their system every year. And obviously they're doing a great job with that, and likely not having backups because of having that increased frequency of inspection and cleanings going on. So good information there too. Who is doing the cleanings? We had about 50-50 on this one, and it was the same last year. Usually about 50% is doing it, the agency itself is doing the cleanings. They have the equipment to do that. Or others are doing it by contractor, another 50% or so, having contractors come in and doing that for them. Just an idea for you there. Looking at backups, agency that have equipment to respond to backups, they're likely to have a quicker response time. They're likely to be able to do those things and take care of it themselves. About 78% of the Trust membership according to this survey, has their own equipment to respond to backups, which is great. About 85 out of 108 on that right there. As far as the sanitary sewer management program, the agencies that have adopted these, there's been 87 of those of the 108 have actually adopted one. They've turned in their NOIs, their notice of intent to do that, and permitting and all of that is being done. And so we're at about 80% reported from our survey here with the trust. Now last year was at 71%, so we've had an increase on that. So we're seeing a good increase. The more entities that do this, the more likely they are to have a better, more comprehensive program that prevents the backups. And so we're seeing good things. Back in 2014, it was only 34%. So you can see those numbers have gone up a lot, especially in the last couple of years, and that's a really good positive thing to have for your system to manage it there. So we send out report cards. We've done this in previous years. We use this information you send in from the surveys each year to compile the totals, look at the total numbers, and then we can send you out a report that shows you kind of how you stack up against the averages at the trust. And here's an example of one that we've sent out in previous years, and we'll continue to do this. I'll be sending these out to those of you on the webinar today watching this. We'll send you out a copy of your report card that will show the specific data you put in your survey as far as miles of pipe and connections and cleaning frequency and things like that, so that you can see how you stack up against the averages. And that's just a good indicator for you to see how your management is going and how it's working for you. And maybe there's some areas that might stand out to you that you can improve on or look at doing a little more in the next year or so. And again, we do this to raise awareness, to let you know kind of how we're doing as a whole, and helps identify those things we can do to prevent the best practices there, or prevent the claims and things with the sewer systems. So that's the overview of the sewer surveys. We'll continue to do that programs. It's been very effective for us. So now I'd like to turn some time over to Jennifer Robinson, and she's with the Utah Division of Water Quality. She's going to talk to us today about the Utah Sewer Management Program. And she's been a great help for us in the past, and she's got some great information to talk to us about some new updates and things going on there. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Jennifer. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Brent. So I will be speaking on the Utah Sewer Management Program. This is the program that was put in place a few years ago by the Division of Water Quality. So I'm just, ooh, this isn't working. Why is this not working? Oh, there we go. All right. So just an overview of my presentation that I will be going over. We're going to just go over these elements of the program. This is a shortened version. I will be giving a presentation at Rural Water as well as at their Northern Conference in Layton that will be a little bit longer. Similar information, but just more detail to it, as well as for operators that are down in the, I believe it's Richmond area, or Richfield area, excuse me. I will also be giving one for Rural Water. Here are some acronyms that I will be going over today. Some of these you're probably aware of, some of them you're not, or potentially you may not be. The CCAP, that's the System Evaluation and Capacity Assurance Plan. That is the plan that if you have, I believe it's over 2,000 connections, you need to implement that. If you're less than that, it's an option for you. The Sewer Overflow Response Plan, that is something that everyone has to implement, as well as the SSMP, which is the Sewer System Management Plan. So just some acronyms so that you're aware as I go through this, what I'm speaking about. POTW is the Publicly Owned Treatment Works. That is something that basically extends from the wastewater treatment plant into the collection system, so it covers everything, just so that you're aware. So we'll go over applicability. The applicability of this rule is basically everyone that owns and operates a sewer system in the state of Utah that is public, federal, state, municipality is covered by this. The only thing that would not be covered under this is like a residential community that may have ownership of their collection system. We do have a couple of those that are homeowners associations. that are not covered under this at this point. In the future, we have the flexibility if it's needed to do that. So just some general information. It is a general permit requirement, and everybody is covered by this. A lot of times with satellite systems, you have coverage over your larger wastewater treatment plant that holds the UPS permit, the Utah Pollution Discharge Elimination Permit. With this one, everyone that has a sewer collection system is required to get this permit. And in order to do that, you need to complete a notice of intent for coverage. If your community has not done that yet, go ahead and get that in as quickly as possible. That link below will get you to the information regarding the notice of intent. The notice of intent has changed slightly. It's a little bit less information than the original notice of intent that was submitted about 6 years ago. So hopefully it's simplified to the point that you can gather that information pretty easily. If you do have questions, my contact information is at the end, and you can go ahead and give me a call or Jeff Stadinka as well. That notice of intent is required to be submitted 180 days prior to the expiration of the permit, and we will give out, or we will provide emails regarding that requirement as well, so that you can get those in time. Some additional information regarding the general permit and the rules. SSOs are prohibited. That's all SSOs. It doesn't matter if it's a collection system owned SSO or if it's a residential. There's just different requirements regarding those as far as notification. Collection systems, basically you need to properly maintain them, have adequate capacity, and then you also want to make sure that your operators are trained, and then you have adequate resources. And this is all in the rule. So these are requirements of the rule that you have these in place. And then also any SSO that is caused by a collection system that is owned by a permittee is required to be reported. So just some things about that. And then you also need to take steps to minimize the impacts of SSOs as well, so sanitary sewer overflows. There are two classes of sanitary sewer overflows. We've got a Class 1 and Class 2. Those Class 1s need to be reported within 24 hours. And then the Class 2s are reported on the annual report. The Class 1s, those are those larger events. We want to know about those because they do have the potential of impacting public health as well as water quality. So, and again, the SSOs that are the Class 1s, they need to be reported to the Division of Water Quality within 24 hours, and then a 5-day report may be required depending on the severity of the SSO. We may require it, we may not. So just give us a call if that does occur, and then we can let you know if we need that 5-day report or not. And then everything is required to be submitted on the MWPP, which is the Municipal Wastewater Planning Program. That's the end of year report that is required to be submitted on April 15th each year. And so next we'll go over the elements of the SSMP. So this is what you need to develop, so it's your sewer system management plan for your collection system. These are just the general elements of that plan, and I'll go into a little bit more detail regarding those elements. First, we want an organization information chart, or however you want to put this together. This is just basically who's involved in your sewer. It can go from detail to just simplicity, however you want to do it. It's up to you. If you just want to have your DRC as well as your operators on there, that's fine. But we do want to know like who is involved in your sewer system, and so that there is some type of organization structure that others can be aware of as well. Other things that need to be involved in the SSMP is your legal authority. We want to make sure that you have the authority to go in and prohibit things from occurring in your system, as well as making sure that you have design it's properly designed, and also limiting obstructions in that. And then also, if you do have industrial users in your area, we want you to be able to go in and, as necessary, inspect them, and also have the ability to do actions to prohibit things from going into the system, so potentially even enforcement is necessary. To ensure that your system is being properly cared for by those that are using it. And then also we want to make sure that you have a map. So this map can be a simple map that basically is just thrown up on the wall. This is one that I just pulled off the internet. Hopefully Smithfield is okay with me using theirs. We went out and did an inspection of this system, and it doesn't need to go into great detail. But it does need to have, you know, basically where your lines are, and if you could, where those manhole lids are as well, so that if there is any road construction that occurs, that you know where those lids are. But it does not need to be on a computer. So it does not need to be maintained on a computer, so that you're aware of that. But it does need to be up to date. So as you add lines, that needs to be updated. Also, the SSMP is required to have operation and maintenance requirements. So this is just making sure that you're aware of basically what cleaning schedules, TVing schedules, and then hotspots. Hotspot lists I can't, you know, suggest. It's something that really needs to be updated, as well as basically implemented by all collection systems. This hotspot list is those areas of your system that need a little bit more attention. We went and did an inspection probably 7 years ago, and the community that we inspected had a hotspot list that was extensive, which was great because they knew where their problem areas were. And then when we went to EPA and we said basically we weren't going to require them to increase their cleaning frequency, we were able to kind of point out that hotspot list basically went into the detail needed, that they really did know their system. And that is one reason that we kind of implemented this program and these rules, is because at the point where we were going out and doing inspections, EPA didn't have a bar, or they had a bar that we were not in agreement with them regarding. And so we put this together so that basically those that are out there inspecting, maintaining, and cleaning these systems are setting their own bar, and then as needed, adjusting those requirements for cleaning and TVing, and then also areas that need more attention. The other part of this is making sure that you have trained staff. I heard of a homeowner who called up the sewer. It was after 5 o'clock, which usually this is what happens after 5 o'clock. But the person that showed up to the home was not adequately trained to be going in and coming to a home and knowing how to basically look for the issue. And basically the homeowner had to let the individual know that they should go out and pop the manhole lids and see how the main line was basically working, and seeing if it was the homeowner's issue or if it was a mainline issue. So that's just some simple things about training staff that may be called out after hours. So the homeowner pointed out, let's go look at the manhole lid below my home and then above my home, and sure enough, there was some debris in that main line. Luckily, the debris was able to move on and out of the area and onto another line that was able to get that debris out of the system. But just making sure that your staff are aware and trained so that when they come to someone's home, the homeowner's not telling them how to handle the issues. And then equipment and part inventory. This is just making sure that, you know, those things that you need on a regular basis, that you can get your fingers on them as needed. This is not that you have them in your shop. This may be, I've heard from some facilities where they'll call me up and say, is this all right, where we've got a local plumbing supply office that we know the owner and he's got everything we need. And I'm like, absolutely, that's perfect. As long as that's in your SSMP and everybody's aware that they can just call this gentleman, get him at his shop, or get whoever is available and they have that equipment. The other thing is the U-Warn system, where you can call on other communities. That can also be part of your SSMP, where you have someone in the area who's willing to assist you, and that's part of basically being able to have that equipment and part inventory as needed. So this is really you figuring out how you want to implement these elements of your SSMP, making sure that you have that adequate inspecting, cleaning staff, and then also resources available to you. The other thing is a lot of times with a lot of these programs, if you don't document it, it didn't happen. So we want to make sure that there is documentation. That's one reason that we have the SSMP available to everybody on the website for at utah.gov, and you can find that on the water quality page. And so there is a model program available to you there for the SSMP. The sewer overflow response plan, again, this is something that you guys get to decide how rigorous you're going to be on this, but you do need to have something in place so that people that are going out and being dispatched are aware of what they're supposed to do. And then here's some just basic elements that the rule requires you to have in place for that sewer overflow response plan. The fog control program, this is another element that basically if you have over 2,000 connections, you're required to have it in place. If it's under 2,000 connections, it's up to you to decide if it's needed or not. Now, if you do have issues with fat oils and greases, then I would suggest you implement it, and then if it becomes an issue, the Division of Water Quality may require you to implement this program. But this is really making sure that any industrial user in your service area is not causing problems in your system, causing any blockages. And then also if there is an issue that you have that on your hotspot list and you're maintaining it until maybe a grease trap or interceptor is put in place by that industrial user. As well as doing outreach to your residential community, letting them be aware of potential things that should not be going into your sewer. You know, we've got a flyer that can be given out where basically you put your information on it, but it goes into the do's and don'ts basically of what to put in the sewer for a homeowner, and that can easily be put into a tri-fold and mailed out to your community. So the system evaluation and capacity, so the CCAP portion of this, again, it's for those facilities that are larger, over 2,000 connections. And this is just making sure that you have the capacity available in your community to handle the flow, and then also looking at trends of any increases, and then how new subdivisions, new industrial users may impact your sewer system. This could also be for sewer systems that have a master plan for your sewer system. This really could be that. So you don't need, again, to go out and revamp something, but you can use existing resources that you may already have in place. Just making sure that if you do have a master plan, that it meets that requirement. Monitoring measurements and modifications. Anytime that you make a change to your sewer system management plan or to your CCAP, that does need to be submitted to the Division of Water Quality. So you do need to do that. You do need to identify and illustrate SSO trends, as well as do internal audits of this program. So this is not just something that you develop and put on the shelf. We do want to make sure that you're auditing this program, making sure that it's working for you, and then as necessary, updating it. And this can be developed by those staff at communities. It does not need to be developed by an engineering firm. And like I indicated before, there are documents online that are available. You just have to make sure and update them and put the information that you want to follow in those documents. So now we'll go ahead and look at a couple other things. How long do you have to implement this? So the rule has been put in place since 2012, and you can see those dates on your screen that essentially all of those dates have passed. So everything regarding the SSMP and CCAP should have been submitted already. So hopefully those have been done. We did decide with the renewal of the permit to give some people that may have not been aware of this program, or for whatever reason there was staff changeover and the communication was not there, we've extended those requirements. So anyone that has not gotten that information into us does have until November 30th of 2019 to submit that information to the Division of Water Quality regarding the SSMP and the CCAP. As far as submitting those reports, we do not want your sewer system management plan or the CCAP submitted to us. Sometimes if you have a master plan, that's already being submitted to our engineering folks at the Division of Water Quality, but what we want is just basically the approval by your governing body. So we want this to be taken before your city council or your district board, and basically them approving the implementation of this program, and then that information to be submitted to the Division of Water Quality. And then as modifications are made, that needs to be re-presented to your governing body, and then those modifications need to be submitted to the Division of Water Quality. The reports do require the certification of whoever is your signatory authority to be submitted with that, and you can find those requirements in R317-8. 3.4. So inspections by the Division of Water Quality. We have in the past gone out and done inspections on sewer systems. We haven't more recently done basically just a sanitary sewer or a collection system, inspections by the Division of Water Quality. We do have inspectors that go out to the permit holders of the UPS permits for the discharge, and they'll be asked questions regarding collection system information at that time. And sometimes during that inspection, they may call you and ask you questions regarding your SSMP as well as your collection system and seeing how it's being maintained. But we haven't gone out and done a thorough collection system inspection for over 7 years, I believe it was about. And the reason for that is the EPA and the Division of Water Quality agreed that by implementing this program that we would get some of those elements basically controlled through this program and implemented by sewers, that we were making sure that they were adequately being addressed. Annual reports. The annual report is the Municipal Wastewater Planning Program. Yearly, that is sent out by the engineering section at the Division of Water Quality. It has several different sections. One of those sections is the collection system section, and that is required to be completed every year and submitted by April 15th. This year, we did a first where we sent that out and then required it to be submitted electronically, and hopefully that worked out well for everybody. And I believe next year we'll be doing the same. And then as far as contact information, if you have any questions regarding your SSMP or submitting documentation regarding the SSMP or CCAP or even the Municipal Wastewater Planning Program annual report, there's my contact information, as well as Jeff Stadenka is involved in this program with the Division of Water Quality as well. And then if you do have an after-hours event that you need to get a hold of us regarding, the DEQ emergency number is there, and that's available, or that's being manned 24 hours a day. So if you do have something after hours, you can get a hold of us that way. Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. I really appreciate that information there. As I'm swapping over to get back to Brent, just want to remind everybody that they can ask questions, type those into the chat box or the Q&A box, and now's the time. You can ask Jen everything there. I did have one question. The notification for an SSO, is that a simple phone call, or is there some documentation that goes along with that?
So the SSO, if it's class 1, so if it's a major, one of those major event criteria that's met, then that needs to be a phone call, basically getting a hold of someone either in our office or on that 24-hour DEQ emergency line. So you need to actually reach someone within 24 hours of the event, and then at that point, someone will either say, yes, you need to submit a 5-day report regarding what occurred, or no, just report that on your annual report and indicate that you notified the Division of Water Quality regarding that event.
Great. Great. Well, I'm not seeing any questions. I think you must have totally covered the subject because we don't have any questions there. But Brent, you want to take off then?
Yeah, thanks for that, Jennifer. Thanks for the information on that. It's very good information. I was going to go into this next section now on best practices, and a lot of that is exactly what she's talked about and shared with us. If you have your SSNP in place, you're going to be doing a lot of the main things that really make a difference in preventing the losses and backups and problems in the system. So Jennifer, we really appreciate you doing that. We appreciate your expertise on that subject. And again, you can always reach out to her with questions if you need help on getting that in place, as she mentioned. So I want to take a quick look at some of the backup things that we see, kind of some trends, and then kind of an overview of things that we can do to help prevent the problems in the system, such as backups and overflows and things like that. But here's some things that we've seen in the past. Foreign objects that get into the system. This is something that's happened before. I've heard of cases where you'll have a contractor on site doing some work, maybe in a home building area. They knock the lid off and gravel falls into the system. You can get some foreign things falling in. There's even been debris get in there. Even a 2x4 has been found in a system before, down in the pipes and in the connections there. Things from the homeowners that get in there. Grease, things that get trapped in there. You get a buildup of grease and roots and things that get blocking the system. Those are things that we see as some of the main causes of backups. Lift station failure, I mentioned one of those earlier. We had this year, there was a failure on one of the systems and it backed up in 2 different houses, causing some severe damage in those houses, costly claims on those. So there's lots of things that can get in there. But the thing that we want to look for is, why are they getting in there? What's the root cause of these problems? Whenever there is a backup, we want to take a look at that information. And here's kind of an overview of what root causes we found in the past, things that we've heard about from you, the membership that you've shared with us. Sometimes it's due to an old system, things that wear out, things that aren't maintained properly, they're not functioning as they should. Over time, they wear out, they break down, and they can lead to having backups and problems. There's been some cases where the connections come loose. They weren't installed properly. Maybe there's laterals that weren't connected properly to the main line, or over time things shift or break or come apart. That often leads to problems as well. Lack of inspections is another root cause. There was one earlier this year where we had a backup into a home, claim on it where there was a lot of damage, and in talking to the member of the trustee entity there, they went back, they were looking at the mapping, looking at, when was the last time this place was inspected, and they found that is one that had been missed. It was a section in their system that for some reason had been overlooked or hadn't been looked at for a little while, and possibly that's the reason that caused that backup. They weren't able to check it and find obstructions or things in time before it ended up causing the claim and the backup. So inspections are critical, looking in your system and knowing those things. Roots and grease, we talked about that. We'll talk more on that as well. And actions by the public. As mentioned, homeowners can put things down. They may not realize that there's some things that can cause some real problems in the system. Whether it's kids' toys or debris or other things getting put down there, we often find that that's a root cause as well. So there's things that we can do to manage that and look at that. But think about your system. Think about what's the root causes of your backups and overflows and problems with the systems you've had. Maybe there's some things that you can look at and try to address and be proactive to not have those things repeat again. So that's one thing you want to do in managing your sewer system. Make sure you're finding those real roots. Find the root cause of what's causing it. Ask yourself why. Why are we having backups? Why are these things happening? There might be some hot spots where you have some regular maintenance that's needed to go on to make sure that they aren't happening in these locations. So make a plan. Have corrective actions, make a plan, whether it's going and hitting those hot spots frequently throughout the year. Maybe you want to check on those more often. Maybe there's some things that have happened in the past in your system that you want to go back and readdress and continually readdress on a regular basis. But have a plan and look at that so that you can prevent those problems and have a better running system. So some of the other things you want to look at, and we look at this with our sewer survey because we see these as critical, but are your manholes being inspected annually? This is the #1 thing that we see that could be the greatest contributor to having a successful system without backups and claims and problems there. See the frequency of your inspections. See if there's any room for improvement there that you can increase those inspections a little more and make sure that you're getting them all in each year. As well as your sewer cleaning frequency. That should be on a regular basis. And it may vary a little bit from entity to entity, but have a good frequency that meets the needs of your system, that you can get in there and have a comprehensive look at it, getting it inspected and cleaned. We find that to be a really good thing. Take a look at your backup response. See how long it takes to get to a backup. What equipment do you have available? How is your plan? And maybe there's some improvements there that you can do to increase that response time, have a quicker response, and get on things before they become a worse situation. So these are other things you want to look at with your sewer system. Jennifer talked about the SSMP. Make sure that that's complete and in. That will be a real key to helping you there. Make sure that your operators are trained. Get them the training, the certification, and things that they need so that they can understand how to effectively and efficiently manage that system and work on those things. Look at your capacities, make sure your inspections are up to date, and Jennifer mentioned this one as well, a map of your system, make sure that it's up to date. That can really help you to know where things are and what's going on in your system. For example, you could have some lines that you don't get to check as often, or manholes that are covered up. Maybe they're out in the field that you don't know the exact location of them, or there's things that are getting missed for some reason or you're not able to have a look at throughout each year. But having a map of the system that's up to date, that shows where all those lines and manholes are, all the access points and things like that, have that up to date, as it can really help you to prevent things and have a good look at your system as you're working there. Have some action plans. We talked about this as well with your root causes. But address those problem areas. Maybe there's things you need to look at specifically in certain hotspot areas or other parts of your system that you want to look at. One thing that you can do is send out reminders to homeowners. Jennifer mentioned that as well. You can send out a newsletter, some type of reminder, or some kind of a handout to homeowners to tell them what is acceptable and what is not acceptable to put down the drains. You might find some crazy items down there sometimes, whether it's rags getting in there clogging the line, or even like this picture here, a baseball found down inside of there. You want to prevent that the best you can, and part of that is just giving good information to the owners, letting them know what to do and what not to do. And then purchase new equipment. There might be some new equipment that you need to better manage your system, whether it's for backup or for maintenance or cleanings or new tools and equipment. Have the good latest technology of things. Get the things that you can to make it more effective for you to manage and maintain your system. Those are all good things to have and good reminders to look at for your overall management of your system. Previously, you've seen this. We've shared this at our sewer summits. We've also sent it out in the past. We have a manhole inspection manual that we were able to put together. This is from the help of the membership of the trust. We got some good information from them, which we appreciate. We're able to share this kind of thing with everybody else. But we'll send out a copy of this manual to those of you that are on this webinar list, those of you that signed up. And if anybody else wants one, we can provide a copy of that. But this is a basic manual that shows you what to look for when you do your inspection. It's a simple guide of what conditions might be good, what to look for, what's kind of a higher or low priority type of condition with the manholes and the things that you're looking at there. So it will help to identify the conditions, checking for flows, and also best practices that can help you make sure that as you do your inspections, that your system's being managed in the right way to make it successful. So here's just an example of some of those things that we put in there. Collar conditions, cone conditions, trough conditions, infiltration, what's good, what's acceptable, what's kind of a, you know, a satisfactory rating, or what's kind of a high priority. We got to get on this right now and get this fixed before something backs up or breaks. Just kind of a simple guide on that, but we will send that out to show you that information that you can have and share and even learn from. You can share it with your new operators or new people working there with you, so that they can see what to look for. They kind of understand what's good and bad, and kind of put a rating on some of those things. Also in this manual, we have an example of an inspection sheet. Documentation is everything, and documenting those inspections can really help you too, so that you can see how your system is, how it's going over time, you know, year after year. Are there things that are deteriorating? Are there any components that need to be replaced out or changed or improved on? But the documentation here can help you. And this is just an example of one. You could use many other templates or things that you have, but we share that with you as well, so you can see what to look for. And as you pop that manhole lid, you know kind of the objects to look for instead of just looking at the flow alone. It gives you a little bit more detail to that. We find that those that TV and video lines are able to have a more effective view of their sewer system. And so we recommend this be something that you do in addition to your inspections and cleanings. Even though it may take a longer time to run the TV and televise the lines, it can sometimes show you things that you may not know otherwise are in there, such as roots or you know, debris, things that build up in there. There could be cracks in the line. There could be some sagging going on in the line, and sometimes you don't know unless you really get in there and see what's going on in between the two manholes. You know, just simply popping the manhole is a good indication, but oftentimes there's many things in between as well. So we recommend including this. Look at the frequency that you can do that meets the needs for your organization, that's best for your system, that meets its you know, needs for that. But it really is a good, effective way to do that. And along with your cleanings, you know, keep a good mapping and tracking on this as well. Know which areas have been televised and which ones you've looked at and which ones might need to be done in the next year or so. But those are another good recommendation, best practice that you can do to prevent the backups in there. Pre-treatment, look at this as well. You know, here's an example of some grease buildup, things that can get built up in there that you may not know otherwise. Look at those areas of your system where you have industrial users where they might be putting down heavy amounts of grease, such as restaurants and other places. Look for those hot spots that you want to inspect regularly. And we want to recommend that you adopt a program of some kind for pre-treatment. This is a very effective way to eliminate backups. It keeps your lines cleaner, lets them flow a lot easier. And whether it's having required grease traps or you know, requiring other solid things that they be contained, have those things in place so that it protects your infrastructure and that it protects you from having those backups and overflows from those heavier used areas with things being put down in there. So definitely look at your pre-treatment options and consider adopting that program if you can. Documentation is everything, as mentioned before. You know, it's really important that you inspect things, that you document when and where these are being done so that you know how to effectively manage your system. But definitely keep a good place where you have your documentation. Have good policies, have your SSMP documentation in place. If there's any repairs or cleanings or other maintenance things that are going on, definitely take some time to document that so that you can have a good overview and know kind of what area you've done, what's next, and what areas need improvement in your system. Also, any actions that you take, if there's a backup, documentation can be a real help to you. Or if there's any complaints from owners or the public of things with your system, document those types of things, and it can really help you down the road to have that information. So watch for those things there. We also want to look at you know, what happens if there is a backup. What if there is a backup? How do you handle that? What actions do you take? The documentation can help you to show that your maintenance has been done, that you're taking care of the things that you need to do. But the key is have a plan. You need to have some kind of a plan in place that says, you know, if we've got a backup and we're getting a phone call and you know, something's going wrong in our system, what's the course of action that we take? Who's the people on call? What's their contact information? You know, what's the procedure for getting out there and responding on time? You know, having your plan, to what extent do you help people to follow up? How do you assist those? But having a plan can really help you to train on that and have it in place before you have those backups and those problems. The key is take some quick action. Get right on it. The sooner that you can get on it, the less damage there's going to be, and definitely want to, do your part to help prevent that from getting any worse. When it comes to homeowners and assisting those, sometimes there's some additional risk or liability that we could take on simply by going into the home of that person. So you want to be helpful. You want to provide plenty of information. You want to be courteous to them. But again, you don't want to go in and damage something inside their home, or go in and try to help them do something and it worsens a problem or damages something. Then you become liability. And basically, if you're in your home and you break it, then you just bought it. So you might want to consider the limits of to where you help people. But definitely you can be courteous and informative and help them with things. Sometimes, people, when they have a backup, they're going to be really upset. They're going to be probably a little emotional about it. They're going to have some hard feelings over things. They may not see it that it's their fault. They may not understand that a lot of times it's in the lateral where the backup happens, and they simply might just need some guidance and information from you. One of the things that we recommend, if you are responding and there's an upset homeowner that's going on there, don't admit fault. Don't ever say that it's the city's fault or that it's the operator's fault. Don't admit that, because sometimes we just simply don't know that until the investigation is done, until the follow-up on the claim is really done. It could be the homeowner's fault. It could be somebody else. It could be somebody up the hill in the system that caused the backup down lower. And so you never know. And so the thing that we recommend is don't admit fault, but you certainly can offer information. Provide them information on, how the system works and the difference between the main line and the laterals. Talk about ownership of who owns what and who should be maintaining what part of that system. That's okay to give that information, but don't admit fault or don't promise to necessarily do anything other than to tell them that you're doing your best. You're doing your best to find out what happened. You're finding out why the backup happened, and you're going to do your best to stop it and correct the situation. And that's really what you can do there. But having that response plan can really help. Having the contact numbers, good response time, equipment at the ready, and giving that information to homeowners. That's really your best course of action for response there. If you do have a backup and there's problems going on, there's damage to the system of some kind or damage to property, definitely report that claim. You want to get that in as timely as you can. The sooner that you can get it in, the better they are to follow up and get better information about it. But do your part to gather information and data. Maybe there's some basic things that you can share. You can talk about the maintenance details, when the last time the inspection was done there, near where the problem was. Have some detail on manhole inspections and cleanings and the frequency of how often you've been in that area. And photos, taking a picture of things that have gone wrong will really show you, what happened there. Maybe there's a blockage in there. If you can take a photo or a video of something as you're pulling out that blockage, it will show exactly what the problem was and what blocked that line, and can help to follow up and find out, really who's at fault in the situation. If it's a 2x4 down there, obviously that's not something the city's going to go putting in there. Or if it's a toy from a child, that's an indication that some homeowner has put something down there. So photos and details and gathering that data can be very helpful in preventing the claim, keeping the cost of that claim down if you have that information ready. So those are things to think about if there is a backup. But I just wanted to summarize now some of the best practices that we've seen. We share this year after year at our sewer summit. The information here because it's very helpful. This is the stuff that really makes a difference in having a system that runs efficiently, that prevents backups, that prevents losses, and prevents the overall cost of claims if there are any. So these are the things that we've talked about today, as well as some of the things Jennifer's talked about. Together there's some really good information that we've provided here. But the key is know your system. You've got to know what's out there, and part of that is looking at your manholes, doing those inspections on a regular basis. We recommend annually. Get out to every manhole and just pop that lid and take a look, see how things are flowing, see how it's going in there. Definitely keep your maps up to date, your system maps. Have the information ready so you know where things are, that you can locate the things that you need. Make a plan. We talked about the SSMP. Looks like about 80% of our trust membership already has that. If you don't have one, make sure that you do get it in place and continually update that. If there's updates that need to be done or if it needs to be reviewed, you know, training operators, things like that. Make sure that you have your SSMP ready to go. Have your backup response plan in place. Preferred providers, there's many out there. We don't necessarily have a list at this time, but definitely know who you would have for providers. You could look that up in advance. Maintain your system as far as cleanings. Do that on a regular basis. And TV on schedule. You know, get out there, see what's in those lines, so you can really see what's going on in your system. Sometimes you might just clean it really fast, and you might blow that line out and go really fast through, and you might miss something. But with a TV, you know, televising that line, you can get down there and see, you know, even if you do clean, you'll see what might have been missed or what else might be in there that could cause problems down the road. And the last one, train and certify your operators. Make sure everybody's trained, they're up to speed on the SSMP, they know the process, they know the response plan, they know the system and where to look for things. That training is a really big deal. So that's kind of the overview of trust sewer management. We appreciate you being on here today. Again, we hope you take this information and use it for your benefit. Use it to share with each other. Use it to learn new things. Maybe there's some things in this next year that you can do to help you know, reduce the losses and damage that you have there in your system. So we appreciate you. Jason, any questions that you're seeing that have come in? Any comments?
Type your questions into the chat box or the Q&A box, and we'd be happy to answer those this time. I don't have, excuse me, I don't have any that have come in at this point.
Okay.
It looks like Doug has something to say as we go on.
Well, I just add, as we're in here, and just recognize this is Doug Folsom, not Jennifer Robinson, even though I'm talking through her microphone here. But there's, you know, the trust has, you know, the no-fault sewer backup coverage as part of our general liability, which is kind of a unique coverage that trust members get. It's a way to offer some relief to some of your customers, some of your residents, when a backup occurs, even though it's not because it's something you did wrong. Liability doesn't exist just because there's water coming out of your system. You know, there has to have been some sort of negligence or lack of you know, maintenance or design problems, you know, for us to actually be liable when a backup occurs. So if somebody's vandalized the system, you know, they've dropped a bunch of stuff down a manhole, or, you know, if you've got, you know, something that's come in from an industrial user, for example, perhaps, you know, these are examples of things that may contribute to something, a backup happening, that's not because of something that you did as the operator. So that no-fault coverage is $5,000, and lots of these backups do cost a lot more than $5,000, but when we have implemented a really good sewer management program where we have frequent inspections and frequent cleaning and frequent, you know, TVing of the lines, you know, lots of times that can be the really determining factor between whether a claim is going to be full liability or just, you know, a no-fault limit on there. Because there was some claims I saw last year, one of our members, where they were no-fault coverage, and the reason that we were able to say, yeah, the operator really wasn't at fault for this, is because of how recently they had been in and cleaned the lines and done their inspections. And so the more recent that is, the easier it is to know, is this a lack of maintenance that this backup occurred, or, you know, is it something else? And so it's really important that the more frequent your inspections, the more frequent your cleaning, you know, the more likely we're going to be able to actually prove, you know, that this backup wasn't something that was because of your, you know, doing, for your negligence and maintenance or something like that. And so that can really save you a lot of money. It's kind of unfortunate for the homeowner, you know, if they wind up with damage that may not be their fault either, but, you know, you don't necessarily have to pay a $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 claim because it may not be your fault as well. And so that's why we have that no-fault coverage there. But if we can limit what we're going to pay to the no-fault limit, that's great. And that can only happen where, you know, you, the operator, has implemented an excellent management program and maintenance program with the documentation. And if it's something that's been, if we've, you know, maintained that line, cleaned it and inspected it in the last year, and unless there's some other damage or design problems, you know, there's a good chance that that becomes a no-fault instead of a full liability. And that can save all of us, you know, a lot of money. And but we still need to get in there and help people, figure out what's going on. We need to help people just to an extent. Brent mentioned, entering the house. Once we go in and try and help someone, say, pump water out of their basement, that's great. That's a nice thing to do, but just be aware that once we're in there, we may be, doing things where they're going to claim we caused other damage at the same time. So we need to be really careful about how we do that and to what level we get in to actually provide assistance with the actual property damage there. Not that you don't do it, but you just need to be really careful and think that through.
Okay, thanks, guys. Appreciate those comments. Those are definitely important points. I don't have any questions. You guys have done a great job covering this subject. I don't see anything in the Q&A or the chat box. So we'll move on here. Just wanted to make a point on this, that we're not trying to beat anybody down on this. We think this sewer management program, your systems are a huge success story. Back 10 years ago when I started at the trust, we were paying out over $1 million per year in sewer backup claims. It was our #1 cause of loss, and we were really concerned about the future of sewer management because of those things. And because of your hard work and putting in good programs and working diligently to reduce the probability of these losses, those dollar losses have gone down significantly. Our rates took a big drop as well, and that's good. But we have been seeing the last couple of years an uptick in those rates of the frequency of those claims, and so that has us a little bit concerned. And we also have some members out there who have those frequent losses where we see repeat claims happening several times, and those are some concerns for us. And so it's really a pat on the back for everybody out there and the hard work that they've done in this area. So, all right, final word, Brent, Jennifer.
Thanks everybody for being on here. Hope it was great information. If you need anything, feel free to reach out to us. We're here to help with resources and information. So thank you.
And I'd just like to echo what Brent said. If you have any questions or need additional information, go ahead and get a hold of me. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate the presenters, appreciate Jennifer coming in to be a guest speaker with us today. We have recorded this session, and we'll place it up on our website as soon as IT gets it up there. And you can share it around with anybody who would benefit from this. We intend to do future webinars like this, so on additional subjects. So if there's something that you would like to learn more about, whether it's good practices in jetting or pre-treatment programs or whatever it may be, let us know, and we're happy to work to help you get good information. And if you have questions, contact us, and we'd be happy to help. Thank you so much for your attendance today. Everybody go out and have a safe day.